What about it, YouTube? Alright. For whatever reason, I'm having trouble getting to sleep, so I'm going to do a video. Everybody's doing it wrong. That's this video. Everybody does it wrong, you know, and that's why you can't, go with any of these groups, like I've talked about. And, it doesn't matter. I mean, the blacks got here, you know, that's an interesting history. They'd never experienced something like Western civilization before, you know, and I mean, a lot of the whites had never really experienced any kind of aristocracy either. I mean, they weren't literate. I mean, there was, how many Irish? I mean, there was, I can't give you the numbers, but there was plenty of white, indentured, paupers, whatever you want to call them, slaves, on average treated worse than black slaves because there was no, they'd invested in the blacks, like buying livestock. They had invested money into that. It's not like you're just some pauper or some indentured dude. Paupers would be sold every year like slaves. Like you'd move around like a foster kid. And like I said, these people, white or black, you know, they'd never been offered a comeuppance. You know, they'd never been offered an education or shown, you know, they came from poor parents. That's what they knew. That's their life. That's their world is that level, right? So this isn't like some kind of slam or anything, because if you look at the whites, so you came from being like a feudal serf or whatever, right? Like you came from having to hand the queen over anything she wanted at any time because you were on borrowed land, and you weren't shit. Then they started to kick them off the land, and then they were forced into like being criminals. I mean, it's interesting. These are white people, so they moved to the cities. They wandered in the cities. They're homeless or fucked up or whatever. So they become criminals. Then they take them and they say, okay, since you're a criminal, you're gonna go to the new land, and you're gonna. Because they were having trouble getting people over here. Plus, they needed some people like this that they could push around or whatever, right? So that's how things were back in the day. And it wasn't some smiley good thing, just because it wasn't like all the white guys were high-fiving down the street and kicking black people in the balls and, you know, laughing about it. That's the most retarded freaking way to look at things, right? So this is what they knew, though. This is today too. So the blacks never even got an eyesight of what they didn't know. They didn't know what they didn't know. Maybe the white guys knew, like, oh, these guys, you know, they knew they didn't know how to read. They knew they didn't get to operate on a certain level, and they knew that a certain level existed. But the blacks didn't know that there was anything different than running around, you know, in a little, you know, simple tribe, whatever's going on over there at the time. I mean, it was very simple, right? Possibly more violent and simple than the other tribes that, you know, like the Indians and stuff, right? Because they even had like what they called civilized tribes back in the day. But I'm talking about the Indians there. But with the blacks, I don't know that there's ever been a black tribe in Africa that was accused of being civilized. So these poor people, I mean, they never even knew what they didn't know. So they get here, and this is all brand new. Now, I don't care what you've ever done in your life, riding a bike or throwing a football or whatever. Your first time probably ain't your best, right? There's a couple of people out there that are like naturals, you know, whatever they pick up or something they pick up, they can swing a golf club perfect from the first time they try or something. But that's not the case for most of us. Most of us have to try, and we have to work at it. And if it's something we've never done before, or if it's something that's not our forte, maybe we're a little bit clumsy. Maybe we don't have the strength or something that would be easy for one guy, right? Maybe the task is to pick up 80 pounds and one guy can do it with one arm, but you'd have to struggle with two. I'm just saying, life is that way. If you've never done something, or if you're inadequate in some region of yourself, that's maybe beyond your control. There's nobody judging here. But if you're inadequate, then you're going to have to try harder. You're going to have to work harder. You have to work twice as hard. If you're that guy that can't pick up the thing with one arm because it's 80 pounds, but you want to be that guy, you're going to have to try twice as hard as the corn-fed motherfucker who was born with the muscle mass to do that. See what I mean? So if it's your first time in civilization, right? And then if the clockwork upstairs isn't up to speed anyway, you're going to have to work twice as hard. And you're going to have to just work at it if you want to accomplish anything. So I agree with Colin when it comes to them whining and blaming everybody else but themselves for shit. That's not really, there's not really a there. I mean, because you've got to put forth the effort first. I mean, there is abuses that Colin ignores. Like, you can go to, think like a cop and other places and watch videos where they're picking on black guys for no reason. But, sometimes white guys. There's asshole cops. Like, there again, it's not black and white. It's not always that way. It's just people are that way. Like, you have to be like I wouldn't know. I try to be friendly to all the cops just because why not? Don't you want to have somebody who thinks you're cool that you wave to down the road or whatever than somebody who you're mean mugging or something? If you want to try and get along with the cops, you got to make an effort, right? But you never know who you're going to get. You could get that bald cop who's on some kind of a steroid trip and decides to frickin' take it out on you. And that happens to white people too, not just blacks. But then you do see it with blacks. And it gives them that narrative. It gives them the fuel for their narrative of just never approaching the problem from where it roots. That, look, man, you guys need to try harder. And you guys need to get to this level. If you want to be at this level, you got to work to get to that level. It can't just be handed to you with affirmative action. That's obviously turned into a disaster. And so many of the experiments have been turned into a disaster. And again, mostly it's under the guise of equality and whatever the fuck else is some politically correct way, tolerance and integration and all these great sounding terms. But has anything got better? I wasn't there, but I know because I did the video. I showed you that the guy that was a freed slave that was in the buggy business out here anyway back in the 1850s before the Civil War. Okay, so I know that there was maybe they were the guys that were just naturals, right? I don't know, but there were people who were, for whatever reason, were freed and had the clockwork upstairs to take hold of something like run a buggy company or whatever else. Okay? So the possibility's there. They've paved the way. It's one small step for the black man, it's one giant leap for Africa. Okay? That's what those guys are doing. And that guy that's on the wall, him and Booker T. Washington, there's people that should be revered so that they have the proper identity that they could sink into from earlier days, right? So it's not like they don't know who their daddy is, let alone who their fucking great grandpa was. Okay, that's a fucking mess. That's a damn problem waiting to happen because you got somebody running loose that has no idea who they are, what their legacy, heritage, or anything else is. They don't have any ties to the past, right? Like, for most white people, they don't want to be the first guy in their family that goes to jail or prison or something, right? So you kind of fall in line with it's our family. We don't want to dishonor the family. Like, there's still some of that there, right? And it's because of our heritage and our identity. that we have something there that we try to protect. I mean, it's being chipped away at, all the time. I mean, your identity now is based around what kind of sex you like to have. But before the tribe got a hold of that one, your identity was within your family first, and then probably your religion second, and then your country third, was probably the way it was back in the day. And what I'm saying is, if you would approach the problem and say, what can we do to, should we just buy Colin's books and hate, black people? Is that what we should do? Or should we just be honest and open about it? And it's not like, I mean, he talks about how he's not racist. Then you read his comments. It's the most hate-filled. He's like doing videos about microaggressions on UNC's campus. When he offers the macroaggressions right on his videos and offers them, I mean, he's just a freaking fraud. I mean, it's bull, because, to really be what he's talking about, to not be racist about it, is going to hurt some feelings probably. But not like it's going to hurt feelings in the way that he does it, where you got the comments talking about ship the orcs back to Africa. Okay? We're talking about where, they're just going to have to realize that, the victim crap isn't, you run out of mileage with the victim crap, and that means shutting down Colin, because he's going to make it impossible to ever grow out of this frickin' state of affairs. Jesse Lee Peterson, he writes a book called Antidote. I mean, people who are looking for solutions like that are the people that need to be, crowded around, not people that are like Colin. Colin's going to give the ADL and everybody else everything they need to make it hell on earth for you. That's if there isn't Colin's race war. It'll just be the end of free speech and everything else, because Colin runs his mouth. It's like he's running around the theater saying fire, 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 fire. And eventually it's going to catch up to him, and they're going to say, look, we can't have this crap. We can't have you, about to get everything into a panic and popping off. Okay, so there's something to look at, Colin, you dumbass. But I've already done that video, so let's not digress too far on that. Point is, all right, the right approach to it is just to be honest, confront it straight on. Look, this is the history. This is the condition you're in. This is what's led up to it. You're going to have to try harder. If you just ignore whatever you perceive as a microaggression, if you just ignore it and move past it and plow past it, you'll find that it didn't matter to begin with. Do you know, I mean, you could call me a cracker, a white boy. I don't even care. You could call me anything. You could call me the N-word. I mean, if you called me a Yankee, it might get under my skin. But if you called me pretty much anything, I mean, it's like water off a duck's back. I mean, really? Because my identity, again, you see what I mean? But these people who have these loose cannons that don't have that history, right? Then they're the ones who are susceptible to, somebody hurting their feelings in that way. You said the N-word, now I'm going to, break your jaw, or maybe I'll just do it anyway because I'll pretend you said it to me. I mean, whatever. And another part of this video that I got away from was, today, imagine if you're in the hood. You grow up in the hood. It's all you know. It's all you see. All your friends' brothers are in gangs. Your mom's a crack whore or whatever. You don't even know who your father is. It's all you know. I mean, how are you expected to get out of that when no one's offered you, and you've never been shown another way? You've never made a habit or been able to see another way to make a habit of another way of viewing the world. So when blacks are in the hood, it's a constant hustle, and it's daily violence and daily hustle. And then if they carry it outside the hood, they're just bringing you to their world. Hey, this is our world. I mean, don't take it too personal. It's just instead of a blood or a crip, they chose you tonight. And maybe there was some kind of hatred behind it, because maybe Colin did that video that they saw. I mean, you got to think ahead, folks. You got to think better. I'm out of time.